Hey, it's Huck again, and this is relatively early Thursday morning. I've got a kind of a busy day today. My niece and sister-in-law will be stopping over for our Christmas visit and gift exchange. Um, I took a second COVID test. I took one yesterday afternoon after Dustin tested positive and and went home. He went on to go to the hospital and he was tested there. They tested him for, I think, all three of the viruses that are going around: the flu, the RSV, and COVID. He got the results for the flu and the RSV. He was negative, but these antigen rapid tests, if they show a positive result, um, they're pretty dang accurate as far as that. Um, they've been known to give some false negatives, but they're pretty accurate if they show positive. So the fact that he took two of them and two separate tests, pretty good indicator that he's positive. Um, Now this raises a lot of serious issues for me, obviously, because I have been with him for months now, including, the day before, he started coming down with all of this. Well, Wednesday, in fact, that evening he started showing symptoms. That evening, we were sitting in a car together without wearing masks, um, driving all the way to Cleveland. Um, I went through, or or no, we went to. I'm sorry, we went to Geauga. So it was about an hour long ride, and I took they took some blood from my arm, and we came back and we drove all the way home. And from what I understand, the it's not clear what variant of COVID-19 he actually has. I'm not sure if they're going to tell him that information when they notify him with a PCR test, but I believe they will be able to identify it with that test. So I assume, it will tell him. You can get any one of the variants that have been out there, but the majority of them now, the dominant strains, are the two newest ones, which are the least resistant to vaccines, and they also have um, a faster uh, manifestation from exposure to symptoms. So, for instance, the original Delta virus, or the original COVID-19 virus, the Alpha virus, that broke like in the, I don't know, fall of 2019 or spring of 2020. Um, that original virus could take anywhere from 2 to 14 days from the time you were exposed before start feeling symptoms. The Delta virus, the gestation period, in other words, the time that you were exposed before you might have symptoms, was something like 2 to 5 days. The current coronavirus versions, and I think this is true also of the BA versions that preceded the two that are out there now, the BK1 and BK 1.1 or whatever it is. The gestation period for this is you get exposed and your symptoms show up, or you can, in other words, the first 2 days or whatever, you may not even test positive if you took a test. It takes up to 4 days before symptoms show and before you would show positive on a test. So this raises a couple of red flags for me, because I've been around Dustin now, through the gestation period. Well, it so happens that you're most contagious after you're first exposed. So for the first 2 days, that gestation period where you may not be showing any symptoms at all, you're probably not aware that you have it, you're contagious at that point. And probably for the next 3 days, as symptoms start to maybe surface. So for the first 5 days, the CDC considers people, highly contagious. And then it quickly drops off. So that's why the CDC recommends that you should isolate yourself, for 5 days. Once you test positive. And then you should be good to go. Because in reality, unless you caught it, you've probably had it for 6 or 7 days by the time those 5 days after testing positive, are completed. So the bottom line is, given that reality, Dustin was probably exposed to this virus very likely, Saturday or Sunday, and didn't start feeling the effects of it until, Tuesday. And that would kind of align up with, with what his schedule was over the weekend. He did a little bit of running around. I know he went over his, to his home with his dad, and probably got together with, 10 or more of his family members. And it's quite possible that somebody in that group, was also unaware but had COVID. Now, I don't know. We'll probably find out in the coming days. But a lot of people, healthy people that have COVID, have few, if any, symptoms, or they're very mild and they mistake it for, like a head cold or something. I got a headache today, and it doesn't get much worse. So they're walking around with the virus and they don't know it. And that's why it's so important that everybody have some of these home testing kits, or while they last, you can go down to your local pharmacy, drive through, and it's a little hassle because you've got to get online to make an appointment for that, and they want a lot of the, information, including, the dates and times of your, or the dates of any vaccines you may have already had. But at any rate, so I tested myself yesterday. I tested myself this morning. I continue to be negative. But realistically, I'm not probably out of the woods for another day or two. If I still am testing negative, by tomorrow and Saturday, I think I'm probably good to go. I have to go in Friday and get blood work done. That's all I have to do. My sister-in-law and my niece are coming over today, so we're going to all mask up really good. It probably won't be a long visit, but we'll do our gift exchange. I'm going to be extremely careful. I'm not going to meet up with anybody or go anywhere, for the next several days, unless I absolutely have to. Now, fortunately, after Friday, really, the only thing I've got on my schedule that I absolutely have to do will be the following Friday, a week from tomorrow. And I'm hopeful that even Dut will be well by then, and at least able to, accompany me. We'll both mask up. They recommend after 5 days you can end isolation, but you should wear a mask for another 5 days, just to be on the safe side. So so we'll probably do that because that'll be a good 10 days out, and probably closer to 12 days from the time he contracted it. These things, in a mild case, it usually runs its course in 10 to 14 days, and you're very less likely to be contagious after 5. So, again, I'm going to be cautious, but I think that's enough time. That's a big enough window, that we should be safe by next Friday. But time will tell. Anyway, so that's today's update. I don't know. You're going to probably unsubscribe from me now that I've posted like 3 videos in a row. You're used to my usual like every week or 2 or 3. I was going to do a political video today. I was going to talk about the border crisis. I was going to talk about, what Republicans would like us to believe is a border crisis. And it's bad. There are more migrants coming, from Mexico and South America than we had seen previously. But the truth is, the vast majority of them, they're not just wandering over the border aimlessly, and sneaking into the country. They're lined up. They're trying to get asylum. And U.S. law still permits asylum hearings, and something like 99% of these people, when we used to process them for asylum, we would let them, await their hearing by coming into America and, fixing some place for them to stay. And like 99% of them showed up for their hearing. They didn't run off and, sneak into America, that's been the history. The fact is, what Republicans are trying to do by insisting that we turn these folks back, and they're basically trying to repeal that law, in essence, or ignore it. They don't want to give brown folks asylum. That's the bottom line. For generations and generations and generations, probably you and I come from, some Eastern or Western European refugee who fled Europe or fled, their part of the world to come here because they were either persecuted for their religion or they were under some type of terrible calamity like a famine, or they were desperate to get away from their own government for reasons of war or some other oppressive need to seek freedom. And in the vast majority of cases, that's where a lot of Americans have come from. They came here not necessarily just seeking economic opportunity because there was little or none in their country, but because they were actively seeking to escape, something dangerous to them in real time. And that is certainly the case for many of these, the vast majority of these people that are coming over the border seeking asylum here. The overwhelming, number of them are either afraid of their own government, or in the case of Mexico, they're afraid of all of these drug cartels that have taken over huge swaths of Mexico and basically rule, in cities and towns, really, in many cases, very close to the U.S. border. And you can read all the horror stories about, how there are people that are taking advantage of these folks, and there certainly are, that bring them across the border, and do terrible things to them on the way, and there is documented evidence to show that that's true, but it doesn't make their desire to escape their reality back home any less true. These folks aren't stupid. They have heard the same stories that we have. They know what risks they're taking. When some of them, and most of them don't do this, but some of them send their teenage kids or kids in the hands of others to bring them across the border, they know what risks they're taking, on that journey. And yet they feel compelled that the risks staying put and being in the arms of the cartels down there, and forced into working for or being slaves to these cartel gangs is a much greater risk to their kids. In other words, the risk of putting their kids in the hands of these coyotes, if you will, is the lesser of two evils. So, again, Republicans would have us believe, and they bring this up every time, there's a Democratic administration. They just don't like spending taxpayer dollars on brown people or black people. And, if these were refugees from Canada, we wouldn't be going through this. So, anyway, that's just one of many issues as we are poised to see the House transfer in power from Democratic control to Republican control that that need to be re-examined. I'm very anxious to talk a little bit about some of the other issues that are equally distressing right now. Particularly, I think the assault on gay and transgender people, across the country, particularly in Republican states. And we're seeing it here in Ohio. It's reached unbelievable absurdity in states like Texas, Florida. And it seems like every Republican legislature with a Republican governor is trying to copycat the most extreme measures, regarding schools and books and, other policies. And for transgender folks, kids in particular, the measures, the bills, the laws that are being passed are about as extreme as we've ever seen in American government, at least at the state level. So anyway, those are discussions I hope to bring up here in the near future. But I wanted to get this out today. So again, as always, I thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your prayers and keeping me in your thoughts. And please do the same for my friend Dustin. I think he'll be fine. But this is a nasty thing. And this is the thing that now for 3 years I've been trying desperately to avoid because, in a very real sense, if I were to get COVID, my life would really be, at risk. I urged Dustin that he should call his doctor today and ask about this, antibody treatment that they offer. You have to get it quickly. You have to get it within the first, I think, 5 days of diagnosis. But it can hurt, and it's pretty much guaranteed to keep you out of the hospital in most cases. They don't have such treatments for people like me that are immunocompromised. There was only one of these antibody treatments out of maybe 3 or 4 that were available that was known to work on people that are taking anti-rejection drugs like me. And the 2 new variants, if that's what Dustin has, and if that were to be passed on to me, those are those 2 variants of the coronavirus, this BK1 and BK1.1 or whatever it is, are completely unaffected by this antibody treatment. Has absolutely no effect. So there really is no known treatment at this time for someone like me that were to get this new coronavirus variant. So, that doesn't mean that everybody that's immunocompromised that gets it is going to die. But you don't have anything to fight it. So, your body is on its own. So at any rate, I'm hoping that all the antiviral treatments that I continue to be taking has kind of maybe built a little shield. I've certainly had all my boosters and vaccines, though again, reportedly they have no effect on these 2 newest virus variants. That is the most prominent one around right now. So, I will know more in the next day or 2, I think by Saturday or Sunday. If I've still not come down with the virus, I should be pretty much out of the woods. And that's what I'm hoping for. Anyway, on that note, I will let you go. Thank you so much for watching. This has run a little longer than I would have hoped. But, hey, we talked a little bit about the border too. So anyway, I will talk to you again real soon. And I will post something, probably Saturday or Sunday. Like I say, by that time I'll be able to breathe a little bit easier. And I'll be able to give you an update on Dustin's situation as well. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you again this weekend.